Whatever happens, happens, I
Hey,
guess.
what is going on, everybody,
Let's get
and
it over
welcome
with. I need
to
some shut eye.
Fantasia.
I
For
may be no
today,
hero,
we're going to be jumping into
but I
another
can still
session
be a
of
worst
Epic
nightmare.
7 out today.
Last chance to run.
Got some more first impressions for you guys. That's right, this time around, we're going to take a look at Captain Guard Krau. So this is Krau, like a younger version of him from the 6th world, right? Because currently, the current Krau that we know and love is from the 7th world. So yeah, this is going to be pretty interesting, and I really do hope that this opens the door for other younger versions of characters. Smilegate Charles? Anybody else? And no? Anyway, let's get started here with the hero introduction. Guard Captain Krau is going to be a fire warrior with the Aries star sign. He actually has pretty decent speed for his star sign, right? The 117 base speed is pretty good. You can make some pretty fast builds with him here. And he doesn't have any crit chance or crit damage awakenings. He actually doesn't need crit rate at all, which is great. He has a team imprint of HP, which is one of the strongest team imprints in the game, and he has defense self imprint, so he is going to be a defense scaler. Now, we're going to go ahead and take a look at other Aries units that you guys might be familiar with to kind of give you an idea of kind of what to expect, right? So let's go ahead and take a look here at Abigail, again, an Aries warrior. So we can see that her stats are actually pretty decent here. Obviously, you don't want crit rate, right? So Abigail, probably not the best unit to do a one-to-one comparison, but Abigail's typically built bulky. She's a bruiser, an HP scaler. Same with Ed. Ed is also an Aries warrior. He is built to, you can build him pretty quick. Mine's almost 240 speed here with pretty decent bruisery stats. But again, he uses crit rate, which Krau does not. So that's why we're gonna jump down here to Laia, who is also a Aries warrior. So my Laia here has HP self-imprint. Sorry, she's on team imprint. That's even better. So this is her HP without her self-imprint, right? If we were to imprint it here, it'd be even more. But yeah, the Krau doesn't self-imprint into HP, so we're leaving that off here for this. 270 speed is something that is achievable. Again, she has the same base speed as Krau, and she doesn't use crit rate. So that is also something that's fantastic. Again, you might not want to run this much HP. You probably end up opting for defense instead in a lot of cases, but just letting you know that this type of speed is achievable. If you're looking for something more middling speed, then look no further than typical Urban Shadow shoe builds like this one here, where of course she has an EE, but if I remove the 9 speed, she's at 240 speed. This is with crit rate and crit damage as well, so you can easily take some of those stats and put them into the defense, into the health. You can even go into effect res as well, something that I didn't really mention. You can go for effect res or effectiveness. We'll talk about the skills of Krau in just a second. But yeah, this will hopefully shine a light into some of the warriors that you may know and love as a comparison to Guard Captain Krau. Anyway, let's go ahead and continue moving on with his details here. So we're starting off with his skill sets, right? With his skill 3, Seething Flames, he grants vigor to himself for 3 turns and then attacks all enemies. So it's an AoE attack by surrounding the area in flames, and he absorbs some of the damage dealt as health. Then he increases combat readiness of himself by 50%. This cannot trigger a critical hit, which is why we don't want to build crit on him, kind of like Ice Krau in a sense. And then he also penetrates the target's defense, again, just like Ice Krau. And the damage dealt is proportional to the caster's defense. So unlike Krau, he's going to scale with defense, right? Ice Krau scales with HP. The difference here is actually going to be interesting because Ice Krau, after his recent balance adjustment, when he S3s, it's a single target attack, but you can soul burn his S3 to make it an AoE attack. Here, Guard Captain Krau is actually an AoE attack with his S3, but you can soul burn it to increase the damage dealt and attack a single target. So I really like how they did the contrast with the buff on Krau and this new Guard Captain Krau, right? Seething Flames looks to be fairly good. Again, it's like Krau's nuke, right? And his soul burn only takes 10 souls, so if you really want to concentrate and burst down one specific unit, going for this is actually pretty easy. And also the fact that Vigor increases attack and defense, so Vigor buff on Krau is actually just going to increase his defense further. Plus the fact that RTA is going to start favoring defense units, defense scaling units a little bit, because of the new frenzy mechanic is going to start increasing units' base attack and base defenses, right? Just adding a flat amount onto each of those stats. So it's going to be pretty cool to see. But yeah, he also has a little bit of that lifesteal effect as well, just the same as Ice Krau after his buff. So let's go ahead and see his animation here, looking pretty good. And we see that the AoE damage, it doesn't do a whole ton, right? It's not like the best damage ever. This is with pretty much no mitigation on the other side too. You see it's like 8k damage. But again, keep in mind, this is an AoE attack. If you do an AoE attack, that's 8k damage. It's not too shabby. Also, given the fact that this is actually a 4-turn skill here, right? And with the skill cooldowns, it's probably going to be even less. Okay, so this is something that you can actually throw out more frequently than Ice Krau's S3. And you don't really need to care about your HP. Like Ice Krau does damage based on how much HP he's lost. Here, Guard Captain Krau is based on his defense stat, right, which is pretty cool. His skill 2, this is, wow, a unit without a passive? Look at that. Comet is his S2. He attacks the enemy by pushing them away and inflicts stun for 1 turn before decreasing combat readiness by up to 50%. And when the caster is granted Vigor, he ignores effect resistance. Damage dealt increases proportional to the caster's defense. So I was kind of mistaken earlier when I said that you might be interested in building him with effectiveness. You don't need it because he ignores res. This is huge because ignoring resistance and getting a stun, as well as a 50% combat readiness push, he might as well just mark that target for death and say, you know what, they're dead, right? It's over. This is also really good at stunning units that might have immortalities and things so that they cannot take the turn, they can't reset their immortality, stuff like that. Things like Genoa that are really annoying when you get him below half health. Getting the stun prevents him from doing his shenanigans with his passive. Stunning a BBK, pretty cool, right? Stunning Amiki as well, and then pushing her back allows you to buy some more time. So it's kind of nice. So yeah, high resist units like cleansers, like healers and stuff, you can stun them as well, and those are pretty plentiful right now, out and about. So yeah, this is a pretty good skill. Again, it kind of does the same thing that Ice Krau's does, except here we can ignore effect resistance, Ice Krau doesn't, and Ice Krau buffs the team with defense, whereas here you just kind of target one person and stun them. So this Guard Captain Krau is a bit more selfish of a unit than Ice Krau. Look at that animation, looks absolutely amazing. Alright, but yeah, that doesn't mean that he's bad though. He is very much a damage dealing unit, right, as opposed to a defensive, tanky, and team supporting unit. So we see here, his skill 1 is called Crimson Flame. He'll attack the enemy with a Mystic Blade and increases combat readiness of the caster by up to 15%, because you can get 5% with the skill enhancements here. Oh, sorry, up to 20%. Gotta add those 5% in. A successful attack deals additional damage proportional to the caster's defense, and damage dealt increases proportional to the caster's defense. So this is actually pretty good. Not only are you getting a turn cycle with his S1 and his S3, keep in mind his S3 low cooldown, you get to get 50% combat readiness, and his S1 will constantly give you 20% combat readiness. You're gonna be turn cycling like crazy. Now, not only that, he essentially has like a Karina mechanic built into him. Like that rocket punch gauntlet that Karina has is essentially built into his S1, right? So that is actually pretty cool to see. And this is definitely going to be a, if you have Rocket Punch Gauntlet and you put it on him, he's going to be good. And if you don't have Rocket Punch Gauntlet, I'm pretty sure they're coming out with a, yep, there you go. So a generic version of Rocket Punch Gauntlet here, which, well actually, sorry, I take that back. There is going to be one that's going to be released when the class summon mechanic stuff happens in the overhaul. They did talk about that, but this is going to be Krau's artifact here. So Thorn of the Blue Rose, it says, at the start of the first battle, acquire require 10 soul. Wait a minute. Oh, look at that. Krau's S3 requires 10 souls to make it a single target skill. So when attacking, increases the damage dealt by 5 to 10%. If you only have one copy at plus 15, it's going to be 7.5% extra damage. Then when you use Soul Burn, you can increase the damage dealt by an additional 10 to 20%. And again, at plus 15, it will be 15%. So at plus 15 plus 7.5, you're going to have 22.5% extra damage, right? That is insane, especially factoring the fact that when he's using his S3, it's dealing a ton of damage, right? Especially if you Soul Burn that for a single target skill, it's going to be pretty good. Now again, would you rather use this? Would you rather use Rocket Punch Gauntlet? This artifact is sorry, you can't... Guys, I apologize. You can't use Rocket Punch Gauntlet. That's a Knight exclusive artifact. My bad. Moving on. This is a Warrior. I keep thinking of Krau as a Knight. Warrior exclusive. This is an insane artifact for so many units out there that it's crazy. This is essentially a kind of Taga Hell's Ancient Book plus a damage dealing artifact, like all in one, right? So this is going to be used a lot. I can definitely see that happening. Again, I apologize. Ignore the Rocket Punch Gauntlet. My brain is elsewhere right now, but this is definitely an artifact you want to keep multiple copies of, and you're going to want to keep them separate. Because again, the souls that you get don't get impacted by how many imprints you have on this, right? So the difference between a plus 15 and a plus 30 artifact, not huge. You definitely want to keep them separate for the souls. So many warriors can use that 10 souls, right? It is really, really nice. Also, there's no limit to how many you can have. So if you have 2 warriors and each of them have this, you start with 20 souls, right? Kind of like having a mage on the team with Taga Hell's Ancient Book. So belly and stonks are definitely going up. Yeah, so yeah, Guard Captain Krau is looking pretty sweet. Let's go ahead and talk about what you might want to run him on, because yeah, he is gonna be a pretty versatile unit, I'd say. So looking at this, just by seeing this combat readiness here, I'm gonna pause. Look at that. On the left side, you can see the combat readiness bar. So ML Payras are usually built pretty fast, right? 300 speed, even the slower ones, 270, something like that. But you also have Closer Charles, who's a really fast unit, you know, 280 to 300 speed is something that you can see on Closer Charles. Some people use him as an opener rather than a closer. But yeah, Guard Captain Krau is hot on their heels, surprisingly. Look at that, right? So Payra's gonna go, is gonna push up her team and such. It's fine. But yeah, look at that. The Flan is gonna push up and push up past him. But the Abyssal Yafine, after 20% combat readiness, still hasn't gone past Krau. So this Krau is actually built with a bit of speed here, which I do like to see, taking advantage of his star sign. Again, like I mentioned with Laya, it's pretty nice, right? So Fire Flan gonna come in and do some damage. Same with Abyssal Yafine. When you're building the Krau, you're gonna be probably using a speed set. That's the best way to kind of capitalize on his speed, and also you're probably gonna run something along the lines of either immunity, HP, or a defense set. Defense sets are kind of right? They're not great. HP sets are typically pretty good, but again, Krau's not an HP scaler. You see this Krau? 17k HP, so he's not really rocking a whole ton of that bulk. Most of his bulk is probably in that defense stat, so it's probably defense necklace, defense ring, to just maximize the damage that you do. Oh my god, and look at that. Because he doesn't have to care about critting, look at that damage, guys. Beautiful. So if we go back here, look at the Soul Burn damage. This, by the way, is with a Vigor buff and a defense buff here. So we're dealing, yeah, look at that, almost 20k damage. So that's pretty sick, and I really do like to see it. One thing I would say is that if you're running speed set, going for immunity set is not bad. Because he's so fast, you really don't want him to get interrupted, and he's not going to be fast as in like he's an opener level fast. He's just going to be fast, like I said, like a Laya level fast, where you want to have, you know, the ability to kind of compete, but not, you know, you're not taking first turn with him. There's not really any chance. So yeah, if we come back here to Laya, you see my Laya's on 2 offset pieces here, 270 speed. This is something that's pretty achievable for Krau. If I come in here and then just substitute this your build here, let's go for I don't know, speed, immunity. I'm pretty sure we have defense main stat things here that we can just kind of throw on and test out. Yeah, let's just test out this piece here, and then let's test out, I don't know, this one. That's probably my fastest one right now. So yeah, we'll throw in these here. So maintain that speed, actually getting even more speed. Look, I have about the same HP as the video, the Krau in the video, with at almost 280 speed. This is with no effectiveness or effect resistance, right? And some of the pieces up here are not super optimal for the builds, but yeah, we have some pieces, hopefully. Yeah, no, my immunity pieces are super slow, so there's no way I can really replace this with immunity. But yeah, if you do replace with immunity, you could rock a little bit slower of a build, right? I'm just gonna throw on a couple pieces here just for demonstration purposes. Let's do just these for now. Yeah, so see, we are still rocking about 2100 defense, right? 16,000 HP. We're still at 276 speed. That's actually not terrible. And yeah, you can build a pretty fast Krau who can turn cycle quite a bit. 50% combat readiness on S3, 20% from the S1 every single time. It's not terrible. I would say, could you rock something like a counter build? I'd say maybe you could probably run a counter build. He seems tanky enough, and his base speed is fast enough that you might be able to get a decent speed counter build going, which is not terrible, but that is something that requires a little bit of testing. I don't think you would be, I'd say some people might be inclined to try a lifesteal build on him, but with how aggressive the meta is and how, you know, how low his HP is, even though defense is going to scale really nicely in RTA now, I still think it's going to be a little risky to run lifesteal, right? If you're running lifesteal, you don't have the speed to kind of go first and just throw out an S3, but if you can get him fast enough, like a decent enough speed with lifesteal, I think you could get away with something like that. Where you would be able to have some good damage. Let me try to get some lifesteal pieces going and show you guys a potential build here. But yeah, if you could use that to kind of, like, my LRK is on a lifesteal build. Unfortunately, I don't think I really have any defense pieces here. Let's see if we can just throw on a couple of random defense pieces and see if it, ooh, actually, let's go for this. Let's see, I'll just throw this one on for now. We're probably going to use offset pieces. There's not really much I can do. Oh, we don't really need all that speed though, so this is fine. We'll go for this, and then we'll try to get some more lifesteal going. Again, most of my lifesteal pieces are probably not ideal here. We'll throw that piece on. I think that's okay. Ooh, actually, this defense piece, too much crit rate. And then we'll just finish things off with a speed boot, possibly with some defense here. There's too much attack. And let's do this. I know the crit rate, crit damage sucks there, but hey, this is just a preview into what you could potentially do. Ooh, actually, this one looks a lot better. Yeah, looks a lot better. We're losing a bit of defense, it's fine. We'll throw this one on. Look at that lifesteal build, guys. Almost 200 speed, 100 resistance, and a bunch of defense, a bit of HP. So about the same bulk as we had before, maybe like 200 defense more here compared to the speed build. But yeah, you're losing a ton of speed, but you might have a bit of survivability. Again, it really depends on your team comp and like how tanky you can make him. If you can give him some barriers and such, that might actually be very helpful too. If you have healers and cleansers and things on the team to support him, that could be kind of nice. This is a little bit slow, but again, he would be even slower if he had a lower base speed, so it's usable. So yeah, I'd say speed set probably the most ideal. Lifesteal seems pretty fun. Counter set would definitely need a bit more testing. Immunity seems like a good offset piece for him. Most people aren't rocking defense sets nowadays, but HP set could be okay as well. If you have defense sets, you can definitely try and go for it, but again, most people don't have many. Defense set will give you an extra 20% defense here, as opposed to HP set, which gives you that 20% HP increase. Just defense scales a little bit less efficiently overall than HP does, and most people are HP bruisers, so if you want some golem gear, go get you some golem, get that defense set going. But yeah, I think that will be it for in terms of his sets. In terms of his artifact, I think his own artifact is pretty strong. I don't really think anything can really replace it. I mean, there are obviously like other things that you can use. Warriors have so many different artifacts. If I just go back to Krau's artifact here, The fact that this artifact gives souls is already just invaluable, and that's one of the reasons why I think it's probably one of his better things. And the soul burn damage, you're probably going to be S3ing a lot with Krau. He seems like a unit that actually just spams his S3 quite often, so it might be pretty good for him in general. If you want other options, if you're not able to get Thorn of the Blue Rose, or you're just not quite feeling it, you think the souls and stuff don't really outweigh the fact that the damage is just all the bonus that you can really get, right, so then we can go ahead and look at some warrior artifacts. So if we look at the warrior artifacts here, let's go ahead and take a look at the 5-star ones. In general, so he is able to self-cleanse with like Sweet Miracle. It's not something that's ideal. You're probably not gonna be running this, but just something funny that you can do. So if he's like, if people try to stun or sleep him at the start of the match, he doesn't really care. But when it comes to just turn cycling, Durandal might not be a bad option, just because every time he's hit, you're going to be able to push up, and he already has so much turn cycling. It could be a decent option here if you just want to get a bunch of S3s out. Instead of Sigurd's Scythe, you can actually run Golden Rose. So Golden Rose is kind of nice because it does increase the damage that you deal, so by 12% at plus 15 if you're above 50% health, and then you do get that lifesteal effect when you get too low on health. So if you don't want to run a lifesteal build, Golden Rose might actually be a little happy medium of like, I get the speed, but I also get to heal up quite a bit when you use your S3, especially the AoE or the single target. Either one of those will do quite a bit of damage onto the opponent, so that's kind of nice. And then I don't really know for other things, because, you know, a lot of things like Sigurd's Scythe and stuff, they scale with attack stats, right? Euberus' Tooth scales with attack. You don't really have like I mentioned Rocket Punch Gauntlet earlier, but again, that was my mistake. That is a Knight artifact here. See? Knight artifact, exclusive to Knights, that you can't apply to warriors. Even things like Benimaru's Tachi, the immunity is great, but giving the attack buff really doesn't help that much. So yeah, I would say overall, Durandal is pretty good for turn cycling. You can go for Golden Rose for that kind of happy medium between damage and healing and sustaining. And those are I think the next two best alternatives. If you guys know anything else that could be really nice on Guard Captain Krau, let me know in the comments down below. But other than that, guys, I think that's going to be it for the video. Hopefully, you found it helpful, and if you want to see more on Guard Captain Krau when he releases and see him in action, do subscribe to the channel. We'll also be covering Victorica in the coming days as well, so stay tuned for that. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.